Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Yana. I'm one of the registered nurses. Currently I work for Queensland Health and I do record a lot of nursing videos here on my channel for you guys. So feel free to check my nursing videos playlist. I hope you will find a lot of useful information there since I was a student up until today basically. So in today's video I want to talk to you guys about grad positions if you want to work for Queensland Health. So we will talk about the requirements, we will talk what it is, how it works. I will also share my experience, and to make it even easier with you guys, I will be recording everything that I see on my phone because I will be referring to the government websites for it. So basically everything I read and scroll through will be shown to you guys here on the side, and I will insert it when I will be editing this video. Also, all the links that I will be using today as well will be linked for you guys in the description box below. So then when you finish watching this video on your free time, you can go and recap and read through by yourself and go to more areas on the website. Okay, so let's just briefly clarify why grad year working for Queensland Health is important. Okay, so if you wish to work clinically for a particular hospital which will be part of Queensland Health, if it's a public hospital, not a private one, they would ask you to have at least 1 year of experience after your graduation. Okay, whether you are EN or RN, for safety purposes they would want you to have at least 1 year of experience, and they don't really care what it's going to be, whether you would go to work for disability services, community services, aged care. Aged care is very popular place to go and get your year of experience, and then you would come back after this 1 year and you will apply for a position. So at least now you will know how to work autonomously, you will know how to manage your time during your shifts, you will know how to work as a team, you will know more about safe medication administration, because you will practice. Your knowledge about medication throughout the year will become a little bit more stronger than when you were a student. So all of this is going to be beneficial for you when you will be applying for a position with Queensland Health for a particular public hospital. Private hospitals, like for example Prince Charles, Peninsula Private, they do run their own grad programs for ENs and RNs, and they have their own portal and times and dates when they open and their own process how to apply. But for the sake of this video, we will be talking about applying for Queensland Health, because this is my experience and I want to share with you something that I went through and more or less I know about now. Okay, so when you go to the government, Queensland government nursing and midwifery graduate program, you will find here on the front page sections with lots of information about grad program. You will have here about the program itself section, pay and benefits. They'll explain you everything about the pay and the benefits that the government gives you if you work for the government, which is really cool. But we're not going to go into that section for the sake of this video. Feel free to open it up by yourself and read it through. It's quite interesting. Working in rural and remote areas, why they emphasize so much for the grads to go rural, because we have terrible shortage of nurses in remote and rural communities, and they really want to send people there. But obviously you need to be willing to go there, because living rural is different to living in the cities. The next section will be First Nation graduates, and then how to apply section, and last section is HA's contact details. So this one we're not going to go to. We will go right to how to apply, because I want to talk about application process with you guys in this video. So when you go to eligibility, it gives you here information about the dates when the portal is open. So basically you can only apply when the portal is open and through the portal. You can't apply anywhere else, okay? And they tell you here that the portal is open usually Monday 17th of July 2023 to Sunday 13th of August 2023. So usually it's open only for 1 month. Okay, so I would recommend, from my experience, make sure that you have all your vaccinations up to date. Make sure that you have your resume is ready and everything that you need to collect, your references, everything ready before the portal is open, because when the portal is open, it's only for a month's time. So you need to make sure to complete all the process that they require you to complete during this 1 month. And if you're doing it while you are still studying in your last semester, if you want to cut off the time, if you're doing it while you're working, obviously you will have less time to prepare and do things properly because you have a busy lifestyle, as all of us do. So, and even here they say, we recommend you prepare all the documents you will need in advance so you are ready to submit them through the portal when it opens. Okay, so it says here the recruitment process takes between 2 to 3 months, and if you don't complete all the necessary paperwork, there can be delays. That's why they emphasize a lot on you preparing everything in advance. So my process took with me they answered pretty quickly. I think it was about a month and a half they have answered to me, and they said that I was accepted. But since that moment, they told me which hospital I was accepted to and everything, but they did not tell me at that stage when I'm gonna start my contract. And that took the longest, okay? After 3 months, yeah, nearly 3 months, they told me that the date was finalized and I will be starting on such and such day. So when I knew already that I was accepted for my grad program, after submitting all the documents, after having interview and everything, you know, I needed to wait for 3 months, nearly 3 months. And during that time, well, when I already knew that yes, I have a perspective of starting at some point, someday at the hospital, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work in aged care to keep something going, because I was afraid that I will forget a lot of things after my graduation. So I still wanted my mind to be going rather than just sitting at home and waiting for my job at Queensland Health, not knowing when exactly it's gonna happen. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna apply for the aged care facilities, and I've got 5 different offers. I have a video about it, how I was applying and everything, and I've got a job. I've got a job in a really good one. I'm still there as a casual up until today, and I was working. So I was working all 3 months before I start and shifted to Queensland Health. Then they tell you here, to be eligible for the graduate program, you must meet the following requirements. So you need to be graduated within the past 2 years from your degree, okay? So basically, the portal is open once a year for 1 month. So you will have 2 chances to apply. Let's say if you failed in the first time, that doesn't mean that you can't apply second time. You can still apply second time. They usually, if you fail, they usually send you explanation why you have failed. So then next time when you will be applying a second time for it, you will know what to improve. Okay, and if they don't send you why, you can request the reason, so you can prepare yourself better. So you pretty much have 2 chances to apply for a grad position. Then the second requirement, you need to be an Australian citizen. You need to hold an Australian citizenship, or be an Australian permanent resident, or New Zealand citizenship. There is like a special category here, 444, or a visa with non-employer sponsored for work, right? Okay, so that's the requirements in terms of your visas and citizenship. The next requirement is you haven't worked as a registered nurse or registered midwife for more than 960 hours, which is equivalent to 6 months full-time, unless you've been employed during the COVID-19 pandemic. When I was applying for my grad, the amount of hours, they were different. They were only 600. So they would tell you like you were not allowed to work more than 600 hours before you start in your grad year. Now they increased it to 960, which is great, because while you're waiting, you can work a little bit more, not being afraid that you overworked and won't be qualified anymore. But yeah, so I worked for 3 months before I started my contract with my hospital. Then be eligible for registration with the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia, including all necessary documentation and identity checks. So obviously before you start to work, you need to obtain already your registration with APRA. In order to do that, if you are someone who have been born in non-speaking English country like me, If you don't have a continuous studies here in English, I think it's equivalent like to 5 years or something like that, you know, you will need to do your English test. Okay, I've done my English test twice. I've done my English test before starting my studies. I've done IELTS, and then I've done my other English test when I was getting my registration. Okay, because the one that I had before was already expired. IELTS is only valid for 2 years, okay, and I needed to do another one so I could get my registration. Okay, so prep yourself for IELTS as well, and just keep in mind that I think they ask now 7.5 or 7, something like this overall, or in every category. Like, they brought it up a little bit more, but just keep in mind that you will need to prep yourself for English test. Okay, English test is not cheap. I think last time when I've paid 2 years ago, well, more than 2 years ago now, it was 375, I think, including the tax. I don't know the price for it now, but like, you're looking at like nearly 400 bucks for a test. And if you don't pass it, they don't refund you the money. Obviously, you need to go and book another one, okay, and pay again this money, and it's very expensive, okay, and it's not easy, okay, it's not easy test, so you need to allow yourself time to prep yourself for it, okay. So you will need to have your registration on hands before committing your contract. Okay, and then they say if you applied in the previous recruitment campaign and meet the above criteria, you are still eligible. Okay, so if you've done application for a grad year last time, but something went wrong, it did not succeed, whatever, but you've prepped already all your documentation, you know, and everything, you don't have to do it the second time. Okay. Okay, information you will need to apply. You will need to know the following to complete your application. Okay, you will need your payroll number if you already work with Queensland Health. I did not have it because I never worked for Queensland Health, so that's okay. I did not have that one. Your visa type if you are not an Australian citizen or New Zealand citizen. For me, because I have my citizenship, I needed to have a copy of my citizenship for them as a proof. Your Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, which is your APRA, so you will need to have your registration ID with them. Your education, so you will need to have your diploma of enrolled nurse and your bachelor. Everything has to be already with you, and it will be with you because I think at that moment when I was applying, because I applied in my last semester, I did not wait until I completely graduated. I applied in my last semester because I was going to be graduated by the end of Christmas, and the portals back then, they were open like the same time, August, the end of July and August. So I've applied pretty much when I'm finishing my degree. Okay, so I told them that I will be still gaining my registration. I will be doing my test, obviously, you know. I'm still waiting for my bachelor to come, which is, I have it here, I'll show you guys. This is my Bachelor of Nursing Science, so I was waiting for it to come. Yeah, so they knew all of that, and I could submit it a little bit later. And then your clinical placements and employment history. For me, I was already working back then. I had a experience as a AN, as a carer, and as EN, all in aged care. Okay, so I already had it ready, and I was already putting it into my resume, and yeah, make sure that it's all done to go. You will also need an email address that you can access for at least the next year, and they recommend here for you on this website not to use your student email, because once you finish your graduation, it might become inactive, so you don't want to use something that might stop working for you, and then you won't be able to track if they're gonna contact you. And make sure that if you use your email, make sure that the email is professional looking, like doesn't have any dodgy names in it and things like that, because still, it's an email, but it represents you, so just try to be professional. And if you need to create a new one, just create a new one, okay, that will have a proper name on it and things like that. Okay, then completing the application form will take about 1 hour, providing you have all the information and uploads available. Please make sure you prepare early. If you need to gather other information, you can't save and continue later. Don't leave your application to the last few days. Plan to start and complete your application early. Then education, clinical placement, and employment history. The application will include an online resume section. So now they have changed this. When I was applying, they did not have an online resume, okay? I was doing my own resume in my own format, the way I needed it, you know, and things like that. And then I was just uploading my resume and my cover letter as two separate files. So they didn't really tell us about the format or anything like that. This is to make sure we have your history captured in a standard format. So I think it is changed now. They want to keep it all in system. To complete this section, you will need to include information about your education, your clinical placements, and employment. So I don't know how it looks like now, but from what I'm reading now, they have a particular format online that you will be following to put all your information in. What I've done in my resume, which is very similar to what they're asking you here, I've completed the first section of my resume by stating my skills, like time management, punctual, team worker, or team player, you know, medication safety and all of that, being safe worker. So I've put all my personal skills and work skills in the first section of my resume. So I've linked them, like my work skills, I've linked them obviously to the position that I was applying, going from being an AAN and going from being an EN as well previously. So I've put all the skills that I've gained in there, professional skills and also my personal skills, like being friendly as well, because I am very friendly when it comes to talking to the patients. I love talking, you know, I'm very relaxing person and easygoing person, down to earth person, and I think it's one of my strengths as well when it comes to communication with your patients and to your colleagues as well. So I've put there, and then I've put first I've put my employment history, because obviously at that stage I was working already as EN, so I've put that, and then I've put my clinical placements. I've only chosen to put in my resume, I think it was only 2 hospitals that I've chosen to put. I didn't want to make my resume too long, but now you will just go with the format that they have online there and just see what they want from you. But because I was doing my own resume separately in a separate file, not through the system kind of like format, I've put the things that I needed to put, and I've put my placements, and what I wrote there was what I have been doing. So I've mentioned the hospital, the time when I was there, how long obviously I've been, whether it was internship or 4 months, and then I've put name of the ward, and then in bullet points what I was doing in that ward as a clinical student. So it was medication administration, it was time management when it comes to no, not time management, I said like I was doing the planner. I said that I've changed the IDCs, I've inserted the new IDCs, I've inserted NG tubes, dressing changes, IVs, bladder scanners, whatever I came across during that placement period, I have placed all in there, because they also want to know your hands-on abilities. What have you come across? What have you done? What are you good at? And then I've listed a couple of achievements as well, what I have succeeded throughout my placement. Usually you can get this from, you know, like when you have your placement and then on a debrief, or when your facilitator, for example, comes to you personally, they would tell you, like, they will assess you. Sometimes they'll stay with you an hour or 2 during your prac, you know, with you just alone, and they would tell you, like, in the end of that 1 hour or 2, like, hey Yana, you've done really well with IDC insertion, like, hey Yana, you've done really well with providing all the information during the handing over your patients, you know. So this is an achievement, and as a student those achievements might seem small, but you can put them in a resume because this is all what you have at that stage. And trust me, they don't want a lot from you, okay? Queensland Health, when they pick their grads, they don't expect you to be experienced already, okay? But if you state little things like that, they will matter a lot, okay? So I've put 2 different hospitals, bullet points to the tasks that I have performed in each one of them, my experience as EN, and then in the end of my resume I have provided 2 references. One reference was to my latest facilitator, okay, and then the second reference was to my current job in aged care where I was performing as EN. That's about it. So only 2 references was enough. And actually here, when I will be going through with you a little bit further, they will actually mention this on their website as well. Okay, then you will need to include information about your principal midwifery or nursing qualification. You can also add 3 related nursing or midwifery qualifications and any other relevant qualifications that can be non-clinical qualifications as well. I had a lot of students who were studying with me that were doing the nursing degree, but they were working in pathology, okay? Or I had a lot of AANs as well, or admins working already in a clinical field, but as an admin, so they can add that to the resume as well. It might be not very relevant, but still, that's your job. And there is something called transferable skills that you can transfer from your current job that is in a kind of like a little bit different field, but you can use those skills into your future job. You know, like for example, being a team player, that's a transferable skill. Being punctual, for example, you know, or ability to complete designated tasks throughout your shift. So like you follow the planner, for example, or you are very motivated and self-organized, you know, and you can actually make sure that by the end of the shift you completed most of the things that you needed to complete, or all of them, depending on your shift. So that's just like an easy example. For each qualification, you will need to provide the name of the university or the other institute using the qualification and your grade point average, which is GPA. Usually you have this when you finish your degree, they will give you the score. You will also need to list the clinical placements you did for the year of your study, which I've done, as I just mentioned now earlier. When you do include how many weeks you were placed and the clinical type, for example, the unit, ward, or the service. In addition, you will need to list your current or most recent work or volunteer work, which was my EN and AAN positions. When you do include the name of the organization, the nature of work, and your commencement and end dates. Well, I was up to current back then. Other things to consider: work out your availability to start work. You need to tell them when you're available to be starting. I said that anytime, literally anytime. Even if I would be working anywhere, I'm happy to start, because for me, starting the grad position with Queensland Health was very, very important. It was on the top of my priority list, so I was like, anytime, just call me. Taking into account the time you need to get up for registration and any personal commitments you have. So basically, if you're applying as me in your last semester, okay, you need to put in consideration that you will need to do your English test and you will need to get your registration. You need to wait for diploma, which I mentioned earlier. I'll let them know in advance that I need to do those. So you will just need to let them know that you're waiting for a specific thing, and they will make a note to your application, because during this time when the portal is closed, as they said, you can't add anything there. There is also be a section for you to provide a cover letter. Your cover letter is essential to the application process, and you must upload one with your application. It should be 1 A4 page in length and outline your motivations for applying for the role, your passion for the profession, and what you will bring to the team. Okay. They have a Prepare to Succeed webinar here online. If you click on the link, you can have a look at it and see what information they provide. So it's for more information about preparing your cover letter if you don't know how to write cover letters. My cover letter, I pretty much told them why I want to work for Queensland Health. what skills I can bring. I spoke about my transferable skills in my cover letter, a little bit about my placement experience, just briefly, because I didn't want to repeat things from my resume, about my current experience where I used to work in aged care. Yeah, and pretty much like you sell yourself, okay? It's not too hard. I didn't have any of this back then. What I've done is I went to Google and I just googled samples for grad position cover letter, and I was just like looking through and see what people put in there, and I just like combined everything together. I picked what I needed and thought it was important for me, and I just like made my own one. But I took like bits and pieces from everyone to build my own one. Okay, so just go to that link, Prepare to Succeed webinar, and have a look what they provide for you there. If you are accepted into the grad program, you will be employed by Queensland Health and are required to fulfill functions as outlined in the graduate registered nurse role description. So when you click on it, let's just click on it, it opens up in a PDF format file, and pretty much it's a lengthy document. I'm not going to be going through the whole thing, but they tell you here what you will be doing, your key responsibilities, you know, like fulfill the responsibilities of the role, consolidate educational preparation, adhere to established guidelines, protocols and procedures of the place that you will be working for, obviously, maintain the safety of your patients, obviously, education, to give promise to yourself, to study all the time. Actually, I want to do a separate video for you guys about that because I think it's very important, but I want to talk about it more in depth separately. Do research. There you go. And then you have like a mandatory requirements, so your registration, all your vaccinations and stuff like that. And then in the end here it says additional information, and I think this is the most important section of this file, okay, because it tells you there that this position may require you to work continuous shift rotations and weekends as per organizational business requirements. Okay, so what I work, okay, as a grad, I started to do shift work right away from the beginning. Okay, I was placed as 0.7, which means you do 7 shifts every fortnight, and I had mornings, I had afternoons in it. Okay, I might have like in 1 week mornings and evenings together mixed up. Okay, you won't have like late early shifts when you go from a late evening shift to an early morning shift the next day. They won't do that for you because by law you need to have at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but you might have like 2 mornings and then 2 afternoons. Okay, then I did not have any night shifts up until 6 months of my practice as a registered nurse. Okay, as a grad, my NUM, he has just a policy on my ward, and I think it's a really great policy. He would not put grads for the first at least 5 to 6 months of practice on a night shift, because night shift, it's a different ratio. It's not 4 to 1, it's 6 to 1 or 7 to 1 if we are short, and we are very often short on a night shift. Okay, so you will have like ranging from 6 to 7 patients to look after just by yourself. Okay, although we do work in a team, but that's your patients. Okay, so, and the routine at night is different. Obviously your body is tired, you need to make sure that you wake enough to stay safe, because you do administer midnight IV antibiotics. You administer other IV medication throughout the night. You have your early doses of medications, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. So your body is tired, and when your body is tired, your mind gets foggy. Okay, it gets foggy, that's natural. You might do some sort of mistakes. So he usually wants for grads to be more or less stable and confident on their feet and what they do during the normal shift hours before they try the night hours. Okay, so yeah, so I started to have my night shifts after 6 months, and you will be having 4 night shifts a month. All of us will have 4 shifts a month, because somebody have to do night shifts, so we all have to share. Okay, and usually my NUM, the way he does on my ward, he puts us 2 continuous night shifts in a row and then gives us 2 weeks break and then another 2. okay, or a week break and then another 2. So you will have like 2 shifts in the beginning of the month and 2 shifts in the end of the month, the 9 shifts, okay? So you need to keep this in consideration, because a lot of people have kids. A lot of you guys have kids. You should see the amount of messages that I receive in my DMs on Instagram, and also to my email, and also underneath my videos, nursing videos, with moms who have kids. They always ask me, should I start working as a nurse? Should I even go into studies in the first place? Because I'm afraid of a shift work. I'm afraid that I won't be able to drop my kids to the early bird childcare or school, you know, before the normal hour starts. Won't be able to pick them up. What if I don't have a husband with me? What if I'm a single mom? I don't have anyone. How am I going to do afternoon shifts? And because Queensland Health, you work every month on a different roster, there are no designated days that you know that, okay, every week I'm working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then I have Thursday, Friday off, then I'm working, for example, only Saturday, whatever. There is nothing like that. In Queensland Health, this is what I'm saying, like, this part is very, very important, because to a lot of people it might be a downside point, like turning away point, because every month is different, okay? You will have different roster every single month. The amount of shifts will remain the same, and I think I mentioned it in one of my previous emails when I was talking about comparison of AM, PM and night shifts when you work as a registered nurse for Queensland Health. I mentioned there that every month the roster is different, okay? The only thing that remains the same is the amount of shifts that you are contracted for. That's it. Everything else is different. So if you're a single mom, if you have kids who are still small, relatively small, if you don't have a partner, if you don't have a family here who can take care of them, or a friend, a very close friend who can come and, you know, pick up your kids for you or stay with them or whatever, think about this. Maybe then don't go to work for Queensland Health, or don't work like for the wards like surgical or medical. Maybe go to work in outpatient clinics or day administration clinics for some sort of procedures, or maybe work like in private clinics, like in Peninsula Private. They have day surgery where they admitting the patients, and they work from 8 to I think 4, as far as I remember, something like that, okay? And it's only Monday to Friday. Sometimes they have elective surgeries on Saturdays, but not the full team is working on that day. So that way you know that every day is going to be the same for you, okay? It's literally from 8 to 4, and you don't work any shift work. But if you work like for surgical wards, medical wards, ED, palliative care, you know, rehab, yeah, it's gonna be a roster work, okay? So you have to organize yourself and think through if it's something that will be suitable for you before you get into the loan for your studies, because there is something called census date. If you don't withdraw yourself from the studies, deciding that it's not for you, then you will be liable to pay for it, for that amount that you have studied. Then the next thing here, they say pre-employment screening, including criminal history and discipline history checks, will be undertaken on persons recommended for employment. So the police check, I think it was $40 back then when I've done it. So you need to pay it from your pocket, but your tax deducted. Healthcare workers in Queensland Health whose occupation possesses a potential risk of exposure to blood and bodily fluids must be immunized against hepatitis B. And this is true. You need to make sure that all your vaccinations are done. But I will tell you something, when you will be as a clinical nursing student, all your immunizations will be done anyway, because this is one of the requirements for you to practice as a student, because you will be still exposed to bloods. So an appointment to Queensland Health employees may be required to undertake a period of probation appropriate to the appointment. So my contract was for 12 months, pretty much, okay? So I was locked in for 12 months. You can get out of it if you want, but that's the amount that you have to stay. Then they tell you here that all relevant health professionals who during their duties formulate a reasonable suspicion that a child or a youth has been abused or neglected in your care, so you have to report it. This is duty of cares. and it's under obligation that you have to report. We also have to report if there is abuse to the elderly people as well, if we notice anything like that. So applicants may be required to disclose any pre-existing illnesses or injuries which may impact on their ability to perform the role. So it's like any traumas. So think about your back, if you have any traumas with your back or knees or anything, because nursing is extended hours of running through the wards, always on your feet. Like I do from 8 to 10K steps every single shift. So that's just an indication for you guys. So if you have problems with your hips or with your joints, like in your knees, or you have problem with your back or whatever, just think about it as well, because you will be on your feet all the time. And a lot of different things. I'm not going to go through the whole list here. So it's 4 pages for you guys to read. I'm going to go back now to the main page. So choose your preferences, choosing a hospital and health service. So here they tell you they have 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Group A is your rural and remote areas. Group B is your more like Metro North, Metro South, Sunshine Coast, Townsville, Westmoreton, White Bay, Darling Downs, and all of that. And here down they tell you have 3 options for your application. If you're choosing a Group A, okay, then you can select up to 6 health providers. If your first preference is Group B, then you must provide a second preference. If your second preference is in Group A, that you aren't required to provide any other preferences. You can still select 6 there. If your first 2 health providers preferences are from Group B, you must provide a third preference. You can select up to 6 if you want. If each health provider selected, you must select at least 1 facility, hospital, or other healthcare, but you can select up to 3. I know this is very, very freaking confusing. So basically, okay, what I was selecting for myself is that I was selecting 3 different hospitals. Okay, first I was choosing in section B, I chose Metro North because I live up north. Okay, I'm about like 40 minutes away from Brisbane, up north. Okay, so I have a varieties of public hospitals here. So I have chose 3 different hospitals. Okay, and in each hospital I have chose 3 different wards where I would want to go to work. Okay, and then what they want you to do is you prioritize a hospital. Within that hospital, you prioritize the ward that you want to go to work in, to whatever. Okay, so I prioritized first between the health providers. I prioritized which hospital I want to go to. So I had my first preference that I wanted the most, second one that I was happy to go to still, and third one, oh well, if you call an offer, I will still go. And then within them, I was prioritizing the wards. So my first priority for the wards, it was a surgical ward, then perioperative, and then medical. Okay, well, perioperative and surgical, they are very similar anyway. But because as a student, I've done most of my placements in surgical wards, like you can name it, like I went to all surgical wards possible that you can imagine and practiced there. I've been in OT for a really long time, in operating theatre, in PACU, perioperative care as well. And then I also, what else did I have? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I prioritized the hospitals. Okay, so what happened in reality, they've called me for my like least priority to give me an offer, and it was a medical ward. Okay, it's a general medicine ward where I work, but it was my like least preference. It was my preference number 3. And they have called me and said to me, hi, well, it was from the hospital that it was my first priority, but the area wasn't my first priority, or not even second, it was my 3rd priority. And they were like, hey, we have this contract starting in April, and we're looking to employ you. Would you be interested in working in general medicine ward? And like during my prac, I had one single opportunity to be in a medical ward. It was a Peninsula private hospital. They have, I think, 24 beds, as far as I remember, in a medical ward. And it's literally like an aged care, okay? It's like no active treatments there, nothing. It's just like so boring. And I had 1 day there as a replacement hours. I got sick and I didn't come to my surgical ward in the same hospital because like I've practiced there in surgical and OT, PACU and day clinic a lot. And I didn't come one of the days and they put me to redo my hours in a medical ward, and I went there and I'm like, oh my god, it's so boring. Like, I didn't like it. That was the only experience in a medical ward that I ever had during all my placements, including even TIFE. And they called me from Queensland Health, from my hospital, and they were like, hey, yeah, we have this offer, like, would you like to take it? And I was advised by my facilitators as well that try not to decline your offers, because there is no 100% guarantee that they will call you again. And I was like, oh my god, what should I do? If I say no, what if they're not gonna call me and I'm gonna stuck in aged care for the whole year? And then like implying by myself, like, while now I have this opportunity, like literally like just given to me, like take it. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say yes. I'm not happy about it 100%, but I'm gonna say yes. And I agreed for it. And they were like, okay, great. Well, you will be starting in August. And I was like, okay. And then they said, before that, you will have 2 weeks of intensive training in Royal Brisbane Women Hospital to prep you for your role. I'm like, oh, okay, oh, all right. Nobody told us about that. So yeah, I took the offer, guys. I took the offer and I started practicing in a general medicine ward, which wasn't even my preference, but that was just my experience. Like, I never feel sorry about it because my ward is amazing. If you guys ever will have an opportunity to work in a general medicine ward, take that freaking opportunity, because on my ward, I have like 7 different teams working, 7 different directions. I have all conditions you can imagine coming through to our ward, and I learned so much. Okay, not every medical ward is the same though. We have other medical wards in my hospital. They are very simple and they do look like aged care, seriously. But the one that I was lucky to be employed to, I'm until now working there, and I don't want to leave it for now because I work so much. At least I want to stay there until the end of my 2nd year of practice now and suck as much information as I can to benefit me in the future. Okay, so that's that. Then they tell you here, choosing clinical preferences. Okay, so you need to nominate your clinical preference categories in your preferred order. You need to select your clinical preferences at the higher level and not by subspecialties. You'll be asked to prioritize the clinical level 1 categories, which is your clinical level 1. Here you have clinical level 2 existing choices: aged care, residential care, community. Then medical, you have here lots of different sections in medical. Then mental health, then peds, then surgical. Okay, so they literally tell you how you need to do it here. Okay, then prepared midwifery. So preference in midwifery, that's different. If you want to do midwifery, I'm not going to touch that because I have no knowledge or experience about midwifery whatsoever, because this is not something that I've been studying for. Then they give you here a list of documents that you will need to provide. Okay, you will need to upload the following documents and evidence with your application. These documents do not need to be certified, and you are not required to upload any photo IDs. So you will need to upload a cover letter, a PDF copy of your academic transcript, which you will get by your uni. I think it's like 3 weeks later after you graduate, they will send it to you. Or you can upload an unofficial one. Okay, so if you're applying in your last semester while the portal is still open but you did not finish your studies, obviously you don't have your completed one, you can send them unofficial one. Unofficial, you can just go to your portal where you study of your university and you can request it there. Referee report 1 must be clinical supervisor. Referee report 2 must be an employer line manager or a volunteer supervisor or a second clinical supervisor if you're not employed. A lot of you guys will be not working as ANs or not working at all, so just take 2 of your clinical supervisors or facilitators and try to take your latest ones, like from your most recent placements. general clinical history check, application and consent form, vaccine preventable disease evidence form, which you will have anyway, tuberculosis screening form, which you will have anyway because you will need that for prac, so that will be ready for you. If you're an overseas student and hold a visa with permission to work in Australia, you will need to also upload a Viva check application and consent form. I don't know much about that because I don't know anything about international students. If you're planning to work in aged care, you will need to upload an aged care criminal history check application. They do have a different police check for the aged care, so it's different one to the healthcare. That's true, because when I was working, starting to work as an AN, I had to do my police check through them, while I already had my one from studies as well, but they were like, no, it's a different one, you have to do it with us. I was like, okay, but they've paid for that one for me. If you're planning to work in aged care, you will need to upload an aged care criminal check, which I already said. Reference report template, all references must complete the referee report for registered nurse and midwifery graduate application and upload them with your application. You won't accept references that don't use this template. This is the new thing. So when I was applying for a grad, all what I needed to do is to put in at the bottom of my resume contact details of the referee, which was one referee was one of my facilitators and one was my employer. They did not need to do any referee report form in a format that they want, but now they actually have changed it, so they want it like to be done through a particular template. Okay, before it was nothing like that, it was very simple. Modify your application. You can save your application and return to it later to continue or modify the application. So that has to be throughout that 1 month of the portal to be open. Once you submit your application, it cannot be modified. If you have made an error and want to correct this, you will need to withdraw your application on the application portal. Click into your withdrawal application and scroll to the bottom of the first page. Click on delete or remove your application. Use the apply now button on the home page to access the application portal again, and then resubmit the application. Okay, then more information they have here for you, email where you can ask all your questions and stuff. Now, interviews. They say we use interviews to understand your motivation to become a nurse or midwife, your passion for the profession, and your current knowledge and interests. For more information about the interviews process, watch our webinar session, Prepare to Succeed, the interview section. Okay. That's about it on this page. So in regards of the interviews, I was applying during the COVID time, so most of my studies, even at university, they were online. Okay, a lot of it was online, and because I was applying during that time, Queensland Health were not running any face-to-face interviews in person. Okay, so what they've asked us to do, not even a Zoom meeting or anything like that, they've asked us to record a video of ourselves. Duration was 8 minutes. I have spoken to some of my friends back then, and they said some of their hospitals that they applied for was a duration of 5 minutes. The one that I applied for, Metro North, it was 8 minutes back then. So I needed to record a video of myself talking about why I want this position, things about me. I think, as far as I remember, they gave 1 or 2 scenarios that they wanted to hear our opinion on. Usually it's like if someone speaks to you rude in front of your patient, like your supervisor or like a more experienced nurse, what would you do? If your patient had a fall, what would you do? If you made a medication error, what would you do? Like, they would give you a few scenarios like that you will need to answer your perspective on it. Remember, it's all about safety and being polite as well. And then I want to show you something here now. For my particular hospital, not for my particular hospital, for Metro North, because I didn't know which hospital I would be going yet back then when I was just applying. For Metro North, they needed us to talk about their values, and this is their values, guys. So they have, how many here? 5 values: respect, teamwork, compassion, high performance, and integrity. They wanted you to let them know what your understanding is about respect. For example, respect: when you work as a nurse, you respect your patients in a way that they have rights to choose their care plan, add things to it. They have rights to request something. They have rights to know the treatment options, what medications they are on, what's going to happen, why they are at the hospital. They have, you respect also the fact that they come from different cultures, different beliefs, and if they tell you that they don't want something because due to that culture or belief, you need to respect that. Plus, you need to have a respect to your colleagues as well. Then teamwork: you work as a team, even though you have your 4 patients, but you do medication checks, you do cares together, you work as a team, not just with your other nurse, but also with all team members in a multidisciplinary team, which your physios, your dietitians, your speech pathologists, your physicians, your admin even who works on a ward, your wound nurse, a lot of people. So it's a teamwork. If you notice that your mobility if you notice that the mobility of your patient is declining, you need to report it and refer the patient to a physio. If you see that someone's oral intake is decreased, report that and refer to dietitian or to a speech. If there is any consideration about vital signs or a general decline of your patient, make sure to liaise with your physician, doctors, with the treating team to make sure that everything is safe and done properly for your patient. So it's a teamwork. Compassion: obviously, if you're a nurse, you need to have a compassion, because working in this field without compassion, but purely for money, you're not gonna last long. High performance: you need to thrive to perform your duties and tasks in a high level. Okay, by this I mean being safe. Take opportunity to learn, research, to become better. If you come across something unfamiliar, research it, ask, open the book. We have so many different resources online that we can access as a nurse, as nurses during the shift. We have memes, we have injectable books if you don't know how to prep a certain IV medication. Okay, always try to work as the highest performance possible by educating yourself, evaluating on your work, reflecting, debriefing when need to, and researching and learning. Remember, when you finish uni, that's not the end of your studies. Okay, this is just a kick point for you to start your career. They don't give you everything that you need to know. What you will be actually learning is during your practice, when you will be working as a nurse. This is when your real learning school will start. And if you don't take opportunity to self-educate yourself, okay, forget it. Like, seriously, forget it. You will be always working in that one level, and it's not even a guarantee that you will be a safe practitioner. You always need to evolve. You need to strive to be better, to grow more, to know more, to learn more. And then it's